G'day viewers, JodoCast again. This time round we're actually having a bit of a re-look at an old mod that we did on the Nerf Mega Magnus. Been having a bit of a look around and seen these 3D printable files to create a Nerf pump action shotgun using the Mega Magnus. So we've gone and downloaded the files and printed them out. So now I've got all these 3D printed parts. So we're going to use those and build us a pump action shotgun. We've also got a new spring that we're going to put in. So that'll hopefully improve the FPS a little bit. Now the files have been uploaded to Thingiverse by Ehdrien. I'll put his name up on screen here. So thanks to him for the files, and they are readily available. I'll put a link in the description to where you can download those. Now this particular Magnus has had some work done to it. It's had an air restrictor removal, but that's about it. It's the original stock spring in it, but we'll soon to fix that. But what we might do is we might have a bit of a look and see what sort of FPS it's putting out in as it is, and we'll put that up on the screen above the blaster just here. So that's the FPS that it was getting after just removing the air restrictor. So now we'll go ahead and we'll do the additional mods. We'll put the 3D printed kit on it and we'll give it a bit of a test run and see how it goes. Now with the additional barrel length you're probably going to get barrel drag, so it'll probably drop the FPS a little bit, but we'll test it before we add the barrel length and after. But first things first, let's get about opening this up so we can start working. Alright, so now that we've got this thing opened up, let's have a look at the internals. Oh, there's this little D-shackle thing part here that we don't need because there's this 3D printed part that attaches to the bottom of the grip. So that will be replaced. There's just a screw that goes through the bottom of that to hold it in place. So there's all these lock mechanisms and what have you. I'm not sure what is needed and what's not. So we'll have to work that out and see what we can discard and what we need to keep. Okay, so we've got to take this front part out. We'll have to finagle that out. Okay, so the dart gate part of it we need to keep. We just don't want this front section, so we can get rid of that bit, but we need to replace it with this 3D printed part. And this piece will have to fit into it, but by the looks of it we're going to have to cut the front off that so that it will fit inside the black 3D printed part. So we'll just have to slice it through there and discard that. So we'll go and chop that off and then we can fit that into place. Right, now that seems to be fitting in there, so we're going to put this back into the front section here. Just wiggle that in, a little bit sticky at the top edge. So you've got to get that lined up into place. There's the little tab that pushes the dart gate down. Just got to get that out of the way so you can get this to sit in properly. I may as well take this whole plunger tube assembly out now because we've got to replace the spring and everything anyway. So we've got the new Blastertech spring that we can put in there. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit firmer compression. I don't know whether I stretched this spring or not, but it's a little bit longer, but yeah, this spring's definitely got more compression. It's definitely a stronger spring. So that just slides in and then seats into the back of the plunger head in there. Just push it in so that it seats into the back of the plunger head properly. Okay, so now we've got that seated into position. Yeah, just line everything up. The little dart gate seems to be getting jammed at the front. So, yeah. Okay, so it's sticking on this part here. It's this for some reason. Alright, so now this is 3D printed rear part that goes onto the back of the blaster, and we have to cut the slide on an angle so that it will fit in with that piece. So we need to work out how it fits on and where that angle needs to be cut so that we can get it to prime and not hit the 3D printed part. So we'll have to take these slides off the blaster and work out where we need to make those cuts, and then make those cuts on the bandsaw, and we'll test it out. You want to allow a little bit of a gap so that when you're priming this, that you've got that little bit of extra room. Just use this piece of metal as a straight edge so we can work out where we need to cut it from. It sort of seems to be like through here, through underneath the A there. Up to this top back edge. Just got to work out the angle. I'll just score this and we'll cut it, and then if we need to trim off more or change the angle, we can. Just score it through there. Down there. And we'll transfer that across to the other side. Alright, so now we've made the cut, and we'll just fit this piece onto the back to make sure that it's going to sit in the right spot and not interfere or foul in any way. So just slide that onto where it needs to sit, like that. Give it a tap on. Get that seated into the right place. Alright, that all seemed to fit alright. So now what we need to do is have a look at the lock mechanisms, etc., and work out what we need to keep and what we can discard, what internals we need to keep in order just to have the trigger mechanism work without fouling anything else. So we'll get about sorting that out. Alright, now we'll put the slide back into place and put this little orange piece in there that activates the dart gate. We'll screw that back on. Alright, so that seems to be moving nicely. Now we'll just try this back piece there. Put that on, make sure that it's going to clear with the action, not interfere with the slide. Get it on where it's going to sit all the way like that. Alright, now let's see. Yep, okay, so that slides right up and meets it nicely. So, yep, that looks good. Alright, happy days. Alright, so now we're going to have to take out all the internal locks and all the internal parts here, which I'll do before I put the thing back together. But let's just quickly unscrew it and take all the bits out. Alright, so let's do a test fit. Alright, so now we've got the whole thing back together, and everything's moving and priming and working the way it should. So I've put the little black piece on here and put a couple of screws in the back of it just there to hold it in place. So it's now in there, sits nicely. So everything seems to be sitting in place, and the dart gate's working properly now. So prime's easy enough. Let's put a couple of darts in it, load it up, and we'll maybe have a test shot. Actually, what we'll do is we'll set up the chronometer. We'll put a couple of rounds over the chronometer and see what it's doing as it stands now. Okay, alright, so let's put a couple of rounds over it and see what it's reading. 27.6, 94.58, 96. Just here, so that's what it's shooting now. Now obviously when we add the additional barrel length and what have you, it'll be adding barrel drag, which will bring that FPS down, I will assume. So we'll check that again once we've put this together. Now this back piece here, you do have to make sure that you clean it out so that it doesn't interfere with the plunger tube at the back here at all, because as that primes you'll see that that actually moves back and forth, so it needs to move freely within this back piece. So you need to make sure that you've sanded it out enough to allow that to still move freely. So once you've done that, you can actually push that into place so that it's hard up against this back edge here. And then when you prime it back, just make sure that it comes all the way back, doesn't foul, and actually cocks properly. It's a dry fire, yeah, I don't like doing that, but yeah, you can see that that doesn't interfere. And what I actually did was I trimmed this back edge forward a little bit so that there's actually a little bit of a gap between the two, just to make sure that there's enough room so that if you have to give it like a decent pull back, that it's not actually going to foul or interfere in any way. So so that seems to work all right. Oh, I removed all of the forward workings of the trigger mechanism, etc. So now there's no locks or anything in place, so you can actually deprime the blaster as well, which I forgot about. So yeah, so that's good, you can actually deprime it as well. Alright, now we'll get the longer than the lower like feed pipe. I've 3D printed the end caps and I've actually glued that into place. So this length, which is the lower, shorter one, is 31.5 centimeters. So obviously you can make it a little bit longer or shorter. I've just made it so that it's long enough to do the job but not too long, so that there's not too much barrel drag, etc. So that's the bottom piece. Now the top barrel, I 3D printed and fitted the orange barrel cap, but that top barrel is 35 centimeters in length. So it's a little bit longer, so that when the two are in place, it actually sits forward a little bit. So now what we need to do is put the barrel spacer piece on, which will work that. At the very bottom. So there, and then the bottom one will insert like so, and just come up flush with the front there, so that the two of them are flush at the back edge. As you can see, they both end at the same point. Now we pop the slide on. Want to make sure that your slide moves freely between the two. So, and now that can be pushed into place in the front coupling. I'll just do this off camera because it's a two-handed job. Alright, so there you go. That's that in place, so you can sort of get the idea of what it's going to look like once it's all together. Now I've pre-cut and drilled the aluminium prime bars, which will screw into place like such. So they are pre-cut to 21 centimeters in length. So screw that first one into place. Screws to make sure that they don't actually foul when you're priming. So that one appears to be alright. So I've used short screws on this, so we'll be able to put the other one in place here. Alright, so that and primes and deprimes nicely. Okay, we'll get this into position. Grammar, that's that in place. Then there's this bit here which goes on the back of the grip, so it just slides on, push it up into place there, and the bottom part of the grip slips on there. screw up its jacks here to hold it on. Get in there, come here. Hold that into place. And that's the pistol grip version done. Now there are all these additional pieces for doing the actual stock extension, but to be completely honest, I'm not exactly sure how they all assemble about. So anyway, so there you go. That's the Magnus shotgun. So let's by way of interest, we might put a few shots over the chronometer with the barrel on and see what sort of FPS it's getting with the barrel on it. What do you reckon? Yeah, give it a try. More, so we're getting that idea out of 6. Alright, so the average FPS I'll put above the blaster just here, so you can see what it's putting out with the shotgun extension on it. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.